One of the most interesting and potentially confusing aspects of VMware's environment, especially in Workstation, is the capability of taking snapshots. And so what I want to do in this video is just give you an overview of what the VMware virtual machine snapshot technology is, kind of what it isn't, and then show you how to get in there and work with it. And then I'm going to do another video or two where I'm going to talk about some of the best practices with these things and then actually demo how to use them, because when you get to creating trees, there's a lot of confusion out there about exactly how do you do that, and it's one of the rare instances where it's not intuitive. First of all, what exactly is a snapshot? Well, let me first tell you what a snapshot is not. It's not a backup. A lot of people tend to confuse this with like the shadow copy backup service that's built into Windows Server. That is not what's happening here at all. A snapshot is a point-in-time copy of a virtual machine's current state. Now that means whatever's in the memory at the time you take the snapshot, any of the machine settings, and then the virtual disk state. Now all of these settings are taken as a snapshot and saved out in various files, and the virtual machine can then be returned later to the snapshot state. Or in other words, if I've worked with my machine this morning and I take a snapshot of it, then I've got a snapshot of everything that was there, the way the machine looked, all the settings as of that moment. Then I can work with it 2 or 3 more hours. Then if I decide, you know what, I need to go back to this morning when I was working on it, I can revert back to that snapshot and see what it was like. Now this again is very similar to restore points in the operating system, except that these snapshots can become a problem, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on when we talk about best practices. So let's talk about snapshot management here. Well, the way we work with snapshots is we use the snapshot tool. Now this is on the VMware menu, and there's a snapshot item under the virtual machine portion of the menu, and this will show us the snapshot manager. Now this provides access to some of the snapshot functionalities as soon as we pull it down, or we can then jump out into the snapshot manager. This gives us access to all the other functionalities and lets us make all kind of magic happen. So now let's jump out to the virtual machine environment. Notice this is the VMware Workstation environment here, and if I want to look at snapshots or take snapshots of my XP Professional machine, if I go to the VM or the virtual machine portion of the menu, you'll notice I can come right down here and I see snapshot. Now when I mouse over that, I get a couple of options. I can take a snapshot, and I can immediately tell that I don't have any snapshots right now because there's nothing to revert to, or I can go into the snapshot manager. Now when I go into the snapshot manager, you'll notice it says you are here. Now at this point I can choose to take a snapshot. Notice I can also make a clone. We'll talk about cloning later on in a separate video in the course here. But this is where I am going to work with my snapshots, and I can give them names and descriptions and so forth. So that's how we got here. Now notice also that when I go into VM and go to snapshot, and I can choose Control M to get here. Okay, so I could just as easily have done Control M from here to bring up that snapshot manager. This is basically mission control for snapshots, and in the next couple of videos we're going to talk a little bit more about snapshots, dig into them, and then I'm actually going to demonstrate how to create these things. There is one aspect of this that can get a bit confusing, so we'll take a look at that in separate video.